So start your new year right. It is a new edition of Heritage and History with Maureen Taylor. And
Amy Johnson Crow.
so we are here and we hope you're going to join us. We have a lot of things to talk about. Some things are our personal projects. And of course, we have our book of the month.
We do.
But I think my book of the month is going to take a lot longer than a month. I think so anyway.
Yep.
So I've had a good holiday week. Amy, how about yourself?
Yeah, it was nice and quiet, it was a wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Yeah,
Thing
it was
to have a
very
little
good.
space.
Yeah.
Oh, we've already got somebody saying good morning to us.
Good morning, afternoon, evening.
Wherever you are.
Yeah, whenever you are.
Right. So I'm going to show you my book, which I actually need to lift up.
Is it your weight training? Wow. Yeah,
it's Jill Lepore's new book, These Truths. And I am a big Jill Lepore fan. I think she writes beautifully. I am not a fan generally of one volume histories of the United States.
Yeah, that's a lot of history to pack.
That's a lot of history. Like, what do you pick? So I got this for Christmas and we'll see. I think it's broken down so I could probably do a chapter a week or something like that because I have other things to read too.
You have other things to read?
Just a few things.
You mean that you have like the pile of unread books like everybody else does?
I do. I spend so much time online for work and things that I just don't get enough time to just sit in a chair and read. It's a problem. Or I'm tired. My eyes are tired.
Well, there is that. There is that.
That's my book for the new year, which is the Jill Lepore book. She wrote a book of fiction a while ago, and it was fabulous. But this is nonfiction. I'm getting a little blurring, pixelating.
You're a little pixelated there, but
I'm not sure what that is. Yeah. And how about you? You have a book?
I do have a book, and
in an ebook.
Yeah, I was trying to pull it up. I just got this David McCullough, who
Which one?
Actually, The Path Between the Seas.
I have that on my bureau.
Yeah, the creation of the Panama Canal, 1870 to 1914. So, I'm fairly convinced that David McCullough could write the history of, I don't know, sanitation, and he would make it interesting.
And he is just a lovely speaker.
He really is. Really is. Yeah. I could just listen. He's just he has this way of taking history and just making it relevant and making it like, oh, that's a topic that I never really considered, but you made it interesting.
Yes, very much so.
Yeah.
So I actually have that book on my bureau.
Yeah.
These two, that one and this one, they could be doorstops.
They could be. Well, mine can't be because it's on my phone, but yeah.
Yeah. Generally large books I put on a Kindle app. And
a lot easier to carry on a plane.
Yes. And to compete with this, I got the new biography of Frederick Douglass.
Ooh, I've heard good things about that.
Yes, it starts out, it's fabulous. It's 800 pages.
Oh.
Yeah. And, I'm fascinated with Frederick Douglass because he sat for so many pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't actually see any pictures in the biography.
Now that's kind of ironic.
It is.
For a man who, as you say, was in so many portraits, and then there aren't any in his biography. That's interesting.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It is. That is crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I always, when I read biographies, I don't know about you, but I immediately flip to any of these nonfiction books. I immediately flip to the citations.
Yep. Go to the end notes.
I want to go to the end notes because I want to see what sources were consulted.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
I want to see how many census records you looked at.
Yeah, I want to see that, and I want to go through. I like to skim, and as you say, okay, I'm familiar with that. I'm familiar with that. Ooh, there's a source I never heard of. What's that all about? Yeah. Yeah,
Right.
there's good stuff in those endnotes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And other things happening with us all are, we have Marty McNabb on. And Kate Keller bought a collection of the David McCullough books. And Deborah, our English watcher. Yes, Deborah, but I imagine the books in your pile, Deborah, are different than the ones in our pile since you're over the pond. You'll have to fill us in.
Yeah.
There's a few other things happening in our lives. If you haven't taken advantage of this is a commercial. If you haven't taken advantage of the Memory Web photo organizer, their deal for their yearly subscription, it's 40% off if you use the link that I'll put in our. We're back.
Yay.
I have no idea what happened. There was a huge gust of wind.
Oh.
And the whole screen went black, and then I could hear a ton of sirens.
Oh no.
So anyway, we're back.
Yay.
We don't know where we went.
We went into cyberspace somewhere.
Right. I'm driving this boat today. So
yeah,
if we lose power, we're cooked. So anyway, I was talking about the Memory Web special deal. I will post the link after we're done. It's 40% off. It's a fabulous deal. I spent 4 days cataloging my entire Rhode Island collection with Memory Web.
That's awesome.
Yes, so that when I go to the photo show this weekend, I hopefully will not buy any duplicates.
Good luck with that.
I'm going to try really hard since I have another duplicate on my desk. So yeah, I use the albums feature as for keywording.
Nice.
Yeah, we'll see how it works.
Yeah.
I'll report back. And Amy, you have rerun your 52 weeks course.
Yes.
Not course, but blogging.
Challenge sort of thing. Yeah, it's 52 ancestors in 52 weeks. It's a writing challenge, free to sign up. You get a new prompt every week. And the goal is to get into the habit of writing or creating or doing something with your genealogy. So it isn't just stuck there in your genealogy software. You're doing something with it. So some people blog, some people post something on Instagram. I've seen people who are doing scrapbook pages.
Great.
I know several people who are sending emails to their relatives based on the prompts. So it isn't something that you have to do publicly. You don't have to have a blog, but it's just a way to get you thinking about stories that you have discovered in your research, or, different aspects of your ancestors' lives, and you can sign up for those prompts over at my website. You can see it at amyjohnsoncrow.com/52ancestors.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can share what Deborah got. Deborah got a book for Christmas. Oh, we have to look at it online. It's from Pen and Sword Company. It's a military. That's usually a military style book. We'll have to look later.
Yeah.
What else is going on? For those of you, we're going to talk about movies in a minute, but then I'm going to use this as a segue to talk about the last muster books. If any of you have been following me for the last, I don't even want to say, scary number of years, and helped support the last muster movie project, it's hard to imagine that I have stuck with a project for that long, but I have. And now they are movies. There are 3 segments. I know it's a huge deal. It took 5 years, a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort. And my partners, Verissima Productions, were great to work with. The 3 movies are available on my website on MaureenTaylor.com. If you look under projects and look for Revolutionary Voices, we made a point of having the movies available for free for educational purposes. So if you have a DAR chapter or a genealogy club or wherever, as long as it isn't a commercial use, go right ahead and show the films. We would like you to, give us your feedback. They're a lot of fun to do, and everybody goes, "Oh my goodness, how could you possibly have found all that stuff?"
Yeah, that is awesome. And seriously, Maureen, all the kudos to you, because that is 3 incredible projects.
Yes.
That's just amazing. And kudos and congratulations to you for getting that done.
Not bad for a book that my agent at the time said, I don't really think anybody's interested.
What do they know?
I know, the books are good. The museum exhibit a couple of years ago was fantastic at the Concord Museum in Concord, Massachusetts. And now the movies, which is just fantastic.
That's awesome.
On to the next volume, I think.
Cool.
Suddenly have some time open up.
Yeah, that's great.
One person a week.
That's great.
Now, you and I did the same thing on December 27th.
Yes, we did. And we didn't even know it.
We did not know it. And
we're just in sync that way.
We're in sync, right? Exactly the same thing. Go ahead, tell them what we did.
We each went to see Peter Jackson's documentary, They Shall Not Grow Old. And he worked with the Imperial War Museum and took World War I archival footage. And he had 100 hours worth of archival footage to work with. And Peter Jackson, who was the director of all of the Lord of the Rings movies, which were, fabulous. But what he and his production company did was they restored, not only they restored the footage, they accurately colorized it. And I don't know about you, Maureen, I am not a fan of colorized movies. Like,
no,
It's a Wonderful Life colorized. No, not going to watch it.
It looks fake. It still looks fake.
Yeah.
No matter how much the technology improves.
Yeah.
It doesn't look like a color movie.
It doesn't look like a color movie, but I will say Peter Jackson's treatment of it is the closest I've seen.
Yes. And
not only that, but for me, in terms of watching it, he was smart enough to realize that it isn't just the colorization, it's the shifting of the frames, because they were only recording those anywhere between 10 and 17 frames per second. And now today we show frames at 24 frames a second.
Yeah, it was fabulous. So there was the movie, and at the beginning of the movie, Peter Jackson comes on and says, here's this movie, and this is what we did, and this is the partnership with the Imperial War Museum in London, which is a fabulous archive. Fabulous. And then he said, I think we had 100. No, I guess he says that at the end. So then you watch the movie where they've pieced together things, from all of these hundreds of hours. And then at the end, if you wait, and I could not believe how many people, and he says right in the beginning of the movie, wait until the end of the credits, and then I'll show you how we did this.
Yeah. I don't think there's anybody in my theater who left.
Half the theater left.
Oh.
Half.
Oh. I didn't see anybody leave at mine.
They did. I couldn't believe it. Why would you not wait till the end? And I think the last 30 minutes was really the best part, where he talked about the frame rate and showed you what it looked like. It was too slow or too fast or just right.
Yeah. Well, and one thing, well, two things that I took away from, among the things I took away from it was what he said turned out to be the most difficult part of colorizing the movie. Do you remember what it was? The grass.
The grass.
The grass. He said, if they got the color on an insignia a little bit off, well, people would either, like us, we wouldn't really know the difference. But he said, everybody knows what grass is supposed to look like. And if you don't have that looking right, then it throws everything else off. I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But something that I took away from it from a genealogical standpoint, from a family history standpoint, is how he said, okay, he's got these, 100 hours of archival footage, and he's supposed to take it down to 90 minutes.
And they're silent films.
And they're silent films. So he also went through 600 hours of oral histories that the BBC had done back in like the 50s and 60s with World War I veterans. So it's their story in their words, literally in their voice, which is just awesome. But what I really took away from it was how he decided one story to tell, and that was the Common Infantryman. He didn't talk about the Navy. He didn't talk about the Air Force. He didn't talk about the home front. He didn't talk about the other infantries that came in from other parts of the Commonwealth. He didn't talk about the Canadians. He didn't talk about the New Zealanders
or the Indians.
He only talked about the story of men from England who served in the infantry. And
there's so many more stories to tell.
There are so many more stories to tell. And it would have been so easy to say, oh, well, this is really cool footage of the Navy. This is super cool footage of the planes and whatnot. But he decided a story, and he told that one story. And I think that if we would do
effective.
It was very effective. And I think that, because now I'm really super curious about all these other things. So he could go a little bit deeper into this one story rather than just kind of skipping and trying to cram everything that he discovered into 90 minutes and just completely overwhelm, and we'd be all glassy-eyed and everything. I think if we would do more of that when we're talking about our genealogy, rather than trying to tell our relatives every single thing that we found.
Right. No, you have to focus.
Focus.
Focus
people.
Right. Focus people.
Focus people.
Focus people. Yeah, I found that all very fascinating. I think there are more stories to be told.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I think as Americans, we don't pay enough attention to World War I.
No, we don't.
We were so late. We were latecomers to the war. And I went to the movie with a neighbor of mine who is British, whose grandfather served on the British side.
Right.
And then her husband was Norwegian, and one of his relatives served from the Norwegian government. And then after the movie, I got together with a couple of other neighbors who had gone to see the movie as well. And we sat around and we talked for a long time. His grandfather had served on the German side.
Oh, wow.
Had been pressed to serve.
Yeah.
But then after the war, immigrated to the Midwest. But it was just fascinating. The whole thing was fascinating.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get a chance to see it, and it was just December 27th, and there was one day at the beginning of December that it played. But now they're going to open it up across the country. So you don't have to be living, I think, in a major city now to see it.
Yeah. And I would recommend, if possible, seeing it in a theater. I think that it's one of those that it really, well, I'll just leave it at that. If you can see it in a theater, go do it. That being said, as soon as it becomes available on Blu-ray or whatever, I'm getting my own copy, because there's just I have a feeling it's one of those that every time you watch it, you'd probably pick something else out.
Well, there was that remarkable thing where he actually hired someone to read somebody's lips and then go into the archive and find the document that was being read. I mean,
oh my gosh, yes.
That's a classic piece of research method right there.
Yeah. Yeah, because he knew when that film was taken, thank you, having good metadata. So he knew he knew the regiment, he knew the location, he knew the date. So go into the archives and see what bulletins were from that date that would have been something that the whatever officer would have been reading to the troops. And I'm convinced they found it.
Yeah, I'm convinced they found it. Yeah. And so after the movie and after the discussion and all of that, I came home and thought, I really didn't think that anyone in my family had served in World War I. But Ancestry.com has the World War I draft registrations, right?
Right.
So I went and looked for my father's father in the draft registrations. And I have a lot more work to do. But I had never really paid attention to them because I had just said, oh, nobody served. What's the big deal?
Right.
But I looked at them and I discovered something unexpected, which was that my grandfather, my father's father, had put on the bottom, where they asked him if they had any other military service, that he had written that he had served for 3 years in the CAC.
And you found out
this was prior to 1917.
So prior to the U.S. involvement in the war.
So this was the Coastal Artillery Corps.
Oh.
Which, because we live on the coast,
right,
did something for the defense of the East Coast.
Okay.
So now I'm trying to find those records and see. Yeah. And now I need to look at all of his brothers as well and see if they had any service as well.
Yeah.
And on that draft registration, I believe, am I remembering it wrong? It said anyone between the ages of 16 and 65.
There were different drafts, and each draft had a different span of years. I did a podcast back in November with David Allen Lambert, and we talked about World War I, the draft registrations, and I don't remember what the upper limit was. Let me see if I can find that.
65. Yeah, check that out.
Yeah, I will look for that very quickly.
But I was thinking, that's a lot of people weren't even alive by 65.
Yeah.
Amy's checking.
I am checking.
So do any of you have any ancestors that served in World War I? And do you know what their service was or served in the military in that era? And have you looked at those draft registration records? Because pretty much any man between those ages of 16 and I thought 65.
45.
45. That's
45.
better. 45. Yeah. 16 and 45.
Yeah.
Had to register.
18, eventually 18 to 45.
Yeah.
The first draft was in June of 1917. That was for men aged 21 to 31. There was another draft in June 1918 for men who turned 21 in that previous year. So basically,
here we go. Deborah's got it for us.
And then September 1918 men aged 18 to 45. And of course, that's only 2 months before the end of the war. So a lot of them didn't even get there. Yeah.
But one of the remarkable things about They Shall Not Grow Old and those oral histories that were shared, right, were the number of men in England who decided to sign up and lie about their age.
Oh my goodness, yes.
12, 13, 14, way under the age in which you're supposed to serve. And they just took off and did it.
Yeah. And at the beginning of the war in England, the enlistment age was 19. And how many men that they interviewed said that they went into the enlistment office and said, "Hi, I'm 17." And the enlistment officer said, "You mean 19, don't you?" "Oh,
why don't you
yes,
come
sir,
back
I
when
mean
you're
19.
Right, come back when you're 19. So they walk out of the office and then walk back in and say, "I'm 19.
I'm 19. Yeah, I went out and had a couple birthdays.
I can't imagine it.
Yeah, it's...
And the whole trench thing.
That was back in 2014. My daughter and I did it was actually a World War II based tour of, we were in England, Northern France, Belgium, and ended up in Germany. But we actually went to the tank museum in, where is that? Bournemouth? I want to say Bournemouth. But of course, tanks, World War I is the first time you see tanks used in warfare. And they had this whole big, basically one wing of this museum just devoted to World War I and the shift from horses to a mechanized cavalry. And it was just, it's a fascinating subject. I never thought I would be interested in tanks.
Well, so many things changed. We get the trench coat.
Yeah.
You don't see trench coats before that. Wrist watches.
Never thought about that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deborah's written to say that her grandfather did that very thing in September 1914. He was 17 and his mother had a fit. I bet she did, but there wasn't much she could do about it.
Yeah.
And Sarah Campbell, when you go on the Facebook page to look at comments, which you should after we're done, because there's a lot of information that people have added. Sarah Campbell has told me that she's transcribed her grandfather's World War I letters.
And how cool is that?
Post. That's very cool.
Awesome.
Sometimes I find photo albums, people that served in women that served in the Red Cross, kept photo albums from their time in France. That was a popular thing to do.
Yeah.
But World War I changed so much of what we do today.
It really did.
Airplanes.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Horses. God.
Yeah.
Hard to imagine.
The number of horses, even though they were making the transition to tanks, the number of horses that were lost in the war it was just staggering.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can't wait till I can find those records.
I know.
For my grandfather to find out what the heck he was doing.
Yeah. For 3 years.
For 3 years. And when.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
I know. And
you see, but that shows why you should always look at records, even when you think you know what you're going to find in them.
Exactly. And some people were really nice when I posted it on Facebook, and they sent me some links for the Coastal Artillery, some articles and a magazine they had, but they pretty much all focus on 1917 forward. Yeah. I'm like, maybe before 1912.
Yeah.
I need that early part. Like, what was he doing?
Yeah. Yeah. Now that's interesting. Now, was that like a federal thing, or was that a state thing?
The federal thing.
It's a federal thing. You might know a couple of people at the National Archives.
I might. I think I might need a drive to the National Archives.
Yeah, road trip.
Yeah, Vanessa has written and said that she lives in Greenville, South Carolina, and that they had a Camp Sevier here. that he trained the 30th Infantry Division, Old Hickory's division,
Mhm.
that broke through the Hindenburg line, bring the war to an end. She does historical programs at the camp. So if you go there,
Cool.
you can do that.
Very
One
cool.
time at the photo show that I'm going to this weekend, there was a postcard. I don't know if I mentioned this on this little podcast, but it is a World War I postcard.
Yeah.
And you look at the front of it and you go, it's a real photo postcard. And you look at it and you go, huh, what is that in the background? And on the back it says, we've had a lovely time here in Atlanta, and we decided to stop by and see the World War I prisoner of war camp.
Are you kidding?
And here's a picture of it on a postcard.
Okay, that's pretty awesome.
It was pretty awesome.
Yeah. My great-grandfather, well, as our viewer was just mentioning about camps, Camp Sherman was built in Southern Ohio. My great-grandfather was looking for work. They were living in Springfield, Ohio. They were building Camp Sherman in Chillicothe. So he picks up the whole family. They moved to Chillicothe, where he got work to build Camp Sherman. If I recall correctly, basically the population of Chillicothe, Ohio, it like quadrupled in just a few short months. Of course, then you have the influenza hit, and now suddenly you have tens of thousands of people all confined together. And yeah, that's a great place when the flu breaks out.
Yeah, they died.
Yeah.
Janet Roy says that she's in Canada and two great uncles served in World War I. One of the brothers used his brother's identity to get back into the service when he had been rejected. Nothing like, the record keeping, right? He also went on to marry under the other brother's name before an affidavit from the wife showed she was aware of the name scam her husband had used. That's great.
I'm glad there's an affidavit there to sort that out.
She says that all the files for the Canadians are now digitized.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Canadians have a great collection for that.
And Sarah Campbell says she also has a great aunt who was an Army nurse. She served in the veterans hospitals here, then took a trip to France after the war. Mm-hmm. I put her name on the Women's Memorial at Arlington Cemetery. Nice. So I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that there is no National World War I monument.
Not yet.
Not yet. And that's what this movie is trying to raise the awareness of. And there isn't one here in my state either. So there is a small group of people here trying to raise enough money to have a World War I memorial put in Memorial Park.
I don't know if we have an actual memorial here in Ohio. I mean, I know that we have historical markers and whatnot. Like there's a historical marker near where Camp Sherman was, and various sites like that. But I don't know if we have a monument. I'll have to look into that.
Last year, the State Historical Society partnered with the World War I group, and they had a scanning day where you could bring World War I artifacts. David Lambert was there in his glory, dating and identifying pins that people had. I'm like, David, how do you know?
I know, he is just such a font of knowledge when it comes to that.
A font of knowledge.
He is.
People had rolled up photos, you unrolled and saw the entire camp there, and they'd say, oh, my father's in here somewhere, because there were men whose fathers had served in World War I.
Wow.
Their fathers had married later in life, maybe a second marriage, and their fathers had fought in World War I. So here you and I are talking about World War, my father fought in World War II, but their parents had fought in World
War I. Wow. Wow.
They had uniforms and pictures. And
I don't know if you've ever seen the picture, because, of course, as you know, at that time period, it was very popular to do the panorama group.
Yeah, the
photos.
yard long.
Yeah.
America by the Yard.
But have you seen the picture where, and there were different motifs that they would use, but they would get people to stand like in a certain shape?
Yes. I love those.
Yeah.
The shield.
Right.
The flag.
So there was a famous one of a horse that was done at one of the camps. Yep. Well, there's another one where the soldiers are all standing around and they form the profile of Woodrow Wilson.
Woodrow Wilson, yes.
That was taken at Camp Sherman.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I've always wondered if somehow my great-grandfather kind of snuck into that, maybe.
Taken from an airplane.
Is that how they did that?
I think, and they must have. They're up pretty high.
They are up pretty high.
So no drones.
That's true. No drones that we know of.
No drones that we know of. I know in the last the first Last Muster movie, the one about Eleazar Blake, there's a scene where we're up high. It's up high over the cemetery, and everyone says to me, "Oh, you had a drone." And I'm like, "No, this is pre-drone."
Yeah.
This was somebody who climbed all the stairs into the steeple of the church.
Yeah. I actually wonder if maybe they didn't get way up in a guard tower.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Although they're pretty high up.
I mean, they are pretty high up, but I don't know. I can't imagine that they would have been able to get that kind of a shot from a plane.
I'm going to look for it.
Okay.
I'm going to look for it because I have a small collection of those. Look at this. We have our youngest viewer ever. Linda Barnes,
Aww.
Loving this discussion. My 3-month-old granddaughter is watching with me. You are her first Genie video, and she's loving it. Aw.
Hi.
No. It's great.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. Well, this has been a lot of fun.
It has been.
Join us next month on February 7th.
Is that what we said?
Yes.
We do this every time. Well, you're always so organized, and I'm like, is that what we said?
February 7th.
Yeah, that is what we said. Okay.
We're always open to topics for discussion.
I even wrote it down right.
So send us an email. Let us know. Take advantage of all of the things, that we chat about. Let us know what you're reading. I'll be working on this for a good long time.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll probably be reporting on that in January of next year.
I think so.
The year-long book
Frederick
report.
Douglass. I don't need anything else.
And I've got the Panama Canal.
And you have the Panama Canal, which I love the way he weaves in family history and genealogy into it.
I need to start his biography of the Wright brothers. I know.
That's one of my favorite books ever.
Maybe that one will jump the queue.
Jump the queue.
Okay.
Read that one first.
Okay.
I love the Wright brothers book. The way they are ordinary guys who tinker in the garage and come up with something really amazing. And they're like, I wonder if we could create a flying machine. Right?
Right.
And they write to this is the best part. They write to the Smithsonian, spoiler alert. And they said, send me everything on flying. And the Smithsonian did.
Wow.
Yeah.
Those were the days.
So read that one. It's short.
Okay.
I read it in, I think, a day and a half.
Okay. Yeah, that one will jump the queue then.
Put it down.
Okay.
Just the transformation of two ordinary people into worldwide famous people is quite something.
Yeah.
Deborah Stock gave us an idea for next month. Valentine's photos, cards, and celebrations. We could certainly do that.
We could probably do that.
I've probably got some things I could pull out.
Yeah. Ooh, I just thought of a tombstone.
Ooh. All right. We're not going to give it away.
Yeah, not going to give it away.
Thank you, Deborah. We'll see you next month. And thank you, everyone, for joining us, as usual. We'll see you on February 7th. And have a good month.
Bye.
Bye.